and shot in the back. He took a bullet for our country. But the Trump administration just deported him to a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7, just because, like many veterans, he previously had struggles with substance abuse that led to some minor drug arrests. He deserves to be honored for his service, not deported. Donna Hughes Brown, a grandmother from Missouri who has lived in the U.S. legally for 48 years, has been in prison since July. She is still there, imprisoned by the Trump administration. She faces deportation. The only crime she committed? Writing 2 bad checks totaling less than $80 10 years ago. Her husband is a combat veteran. They deported a 4-year-old U.S. citizen boy with late-stage cancer, a U.S. citizen who has the right, like all U.S. citizens, to have due process. And his mother did not consent to have him deported, but his rights were ignored by the Trump administration. Listen to me. None of these people were in the country illegally. None of them committed any serious crimes. By the administration's own data, 70% of the people they have detained have no criminal convictions. The Trump administration should be going after violent criminals, not veterans, not kids with cancer, and not police officers like Officer Bojovic. And while we are on the subject of condemning violence against law enforcement, I want to thank you, Officer Hodges, for your bravery in defending our Capitol against the extremists on January 6th. It is shameful that the Republican leadership of this House still refuses to hang this plaque honoring you and your federal officers for their sacrifice. So I say to my Republican colleagues in the room right now, if you really support law enforcement, talk to Speaker Johnson today. Text him right now. Tell him to hang the plaque. If Officer Hodges could find the courage to risk his life for all of you on January 6th, you can find the courage to stand up to your extreme base and show him and the other officers who served on January 6th the respect that they deserve. And with that, run the video.
Capital injury, multiple capital injury. If I give this up, they're going to have to run down. At least this capital we can defend. We got to hold what we have. I need tank support. We lost the line. We lost the line. All MPD, step back. All MPD, step back up to the upper deck. Get him up. Get him up. Officer down. Get him up. He lost the line. Get him up. Hold up. Get him up. Hold up.
The gentleman's time has expired. And I recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger, 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this very important hearing. I want you all to know, and please pass this along to all the people that you represent in law enforcement, that we support you, that we believe in you, that we need you, that this is not just something that is lip service, but it's actual. It's an actual heartfelt statement, and I think we've proven that, at least on this side of the aisle, time and again, with legislation that backs that up. The soon-to-be mayor of the city with the largest police department in America, New York City, Socialist Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, has appointed Alex Vital, a vocal police abolition advocate, to his so-called Community Safety Transition Committee. Vital's book, The End of Policing, argues that traditional policing and law enforcement institutions are fundamentally irredeemable and should be dismantled rather than be reformed. Yet another example how the radical left seeks to undermine our institutions in the name of a dystopian ideological experiment. To Mr. Thompson, in jurisdictions that are led by elected officials with anti-police agendas, where local governments have undermined policing capacity and allowed crime and violence against officers to rise, do you believe that the Trump administration is taking the right approach by deploying federal law enforcement resources to stabilize these areas?
I do. I believe it's long overdue. I think it's not perfect by any shape of the imagination, sir. And I have read that book, by the way, and I had to put it down after 3/4 of the way. I couldn't finish reading it. It just incensed me. But back to the point. We hear these stories of the failures in law enforcement, and they are minuscule. Last year, there were 250,000 deaths from medical malpractice. I don't hear anybody calling for the elimination of doctors in medicine for medical malpractice. Maybe somebody could show me what's being done on an equal level to that attack. 250,000. And we need doctors. We need nurses. But we also need civility, and the rule of law has long been the backbone of this country. And it has to be civil, and it has to be fair and transparent, and it has to be sought after for protection, for perfection. To quote Lombardi, you seek perfection in the hopes that you'll get to excellence. Mistakes? Absolutely. When they break the law, let the Justice Department, let your local DA come in and take action.
Well, that's been a problem as well, that many local DAs fail to prosecute violent crimes.
They do.
Which is why we see a rise in violent crime in many cities that are run by elected officials like this. Mr. Hughes, what's the feeling when you hear elected officials and other people talk about doxing law enforcement, or actually doxing law enforcement, or giving their position away? What's the feeling there?
Well, doxing, as we know, has become a huge problem, and is one of the reasons that the face coverings are being used now. It really has opened up a lot of law enforcement and their families to threats, and that is a problem. Think about yourself. If me being a law enforcement officer, if you were a law enforcement officer, or had a child or a spouse who was in law enforcement, and that was going on, that would incense anybody, I think. And would make you think twice about the face coverings as well, as if you had a different opinion, because that could protect it as well with the doxing.
Can you give us the operational reasons that the face coverings are used, in addition to the prevention of doxing, for their safety or their personal safety of their families?
Well, besides doxing, we used face coverings just for operational purposes, especially when we did execution of warrants and things like that, for protection. So that's outside. That would be in a particular operational setting.
Tactics, techniques, and procedures that are designed to keep the officers safe.
Yes.
It's just disgusting to see the destruction and the complete pushback on the rule of law. And, whether it's violence that's perpetrated against law enforcement, those that are wearing the uniforms, whether it's doxing, whether it's colleagues who say you don't have to follow orders, you don't have to follow orders of the commander-in-chief. It's a really sad situation that we find ourselves in. We thank you for the work that you do. We thank those that wear the uniform, that serve in these dangerous situations, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Goldman, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's talk about the rule of law, and let's talk about what is actually going on in our country with civil immigration enforcement. I want to be very clear and upfront. I was a prosecutor for the Department of Justice for 10 years. I worked alongside law enforcement officers from every federal agency, including the Department of Homeland Security, some of the most patriotic and brave individuals who absolutely represented the very, very best of our country. And frankly, it is that experience that has made me so upset about what we are seeing on the streets of the United States. Mr. Thompson, in your opening statement, you said that these agents wake up, they put on their uniform, they put on their star, and they do their job with civility. The problem is that's not the case. They don't put on a uniform. They don't wear identification. And they go out with masks on to violently, in many cases, arrest unsuspecting immigrants, nonviolent, many of whom are actually here legally. So let's take a look of the other side of the perspective and roll a video, please.
I'm sorry, were you asking me a question?
No, let's roll a video.
striking anyone in their sights, including members of the media, repeatedly.
Damage to his brain from being slammed headfirst into the ground.
What am I doing? Hey! 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 Adios! Come on, man!
Now, that last clip was from 26 Federal Plaza in Manhattan, in my district. The individual, the officer, was immediately suspended when the Department of Homeland Security said that conduct is unacceptable and not representative of ICE. 3 days later,